to 2025, everyone. Happy New Year. It is officially the year of the Crain and Company Sports Media Takeover. To my left, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn. And to my right, former Western State Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crain. We have a great show for you guys today with a new format we're really jacked and tan about. We're going to answer if the SEC's dominance of college football is at an end. It's Black Monday, and we have some firings we're going to discuss. And we debut our new participation trophy segment with a shout-out to Joy Taylor and Skip Bayless. Blaine, can you tell them about the chat and the polls?
Absolutely, chat. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate and it's on topic, it will get read. If you donate at all, it will get read at the end of the show. We're going to have multiple polls today, and some polls you get to decide the winner of the segment. So make sure you get in there and you get that vote in. David, can we hear about the Hot Take Hotline?
We are taking your live calls on the Hot Take Hotline. Those lines will open up at 3:50 Eastern Time, 2:50 Central. The number is 1-855-236-3228. Each caller has a 60-second shot clock. Call in. Give us your hottest take.
All right, everybody. It's the Monday edition of a new year of Crain and Company. Let's get it. The SEC's utter dominance over college football, like in the last 20 years, I think it's over. I don't think any conference will ever dominate like that again. You know, the league that since 2005 has won 13 of 20 national championships, including 5 different teams within that same conference winning, and that's not counting Texas. And they also have a stretch of winning the Natty for 7 straight years in a row. And don't even get me started on the NFL draft. It's a moot point. And it's not because the SEC cares less now or that they did something wrong. It's because of the evolution of the game with NIL and the transfer portal has made it near impossible to monopolize the sport by a conference or a coach of a specific team like Nick Saban did at Alabama or Kirby Smart almost did at Georgia. Now, that isn't to say the SEC won't dominate some years or have the best team in others, but the era of this league or any league overwhelmingly owning this sport, well, it's over. Now, the passion behind the teams of the SEC will still be the highest in aggregate, but the on-field results will not be. And it's actually a great thing for the sport. We need champions to span from coast to coast and border to border. We need continuous change in the big boy chair for college football to thrive at its highest. Now, would anyone be shocked if the SEC won it all next year or a specific team? No, that's not what I'm saying. But the days of a singular conference winning 7 national titles in a row, well, that's gone. And being from SEC country like I am, for some, that may be a hard pill to swallow. But it's a medicine that's good for everyone involved. Blaine, I'm not trying to bash the SEC. We know this.
Sound like
all right? I can sit here and I think if you're on either fringe, you think the SEC is going to be the best forever, I think you're crazy. If you think the SEC hasn't been the best overall in the last 20 years, I think you're even crazier. How do you feel?
Well, I think the real question is what is dominance, right? I mean, you already said it. I mean, 13 of 20, 13 of 18 national championships as we look at it. The NIL and the transfer portal will make it different, but can we base off of 1 year? I mean, 1 year now, we can say the SEC is not going to dominate. What do they still do? They bring in top-tier talent when it comes to recruiting. You're in the SEC, so you go through an absolute grueling schedule that somewhat prepares you to play in high-stake games such as the playoff. And even if this year's a little bit different, I still think the college football expanding will give the SEC more opportunities to go win a national championship. I don't want to hear anything about bowl games, and I don't care about bowl games. Opt out this, opt out that. Stuff doesn't matter to me. You still have elite coaches. You still have go look at the draft. It might be a little bit different this year, but I don't think that's going to sustain in the long run. You have elite coaches, you have elite players, you have the schedule to go through that prepares you to be in the national championship, and you still dominate recruiting. And I wouldn't be surprised if the donations for NIL just keep raising and raising and raising when it comes to the SEC, because the SEC still wants to be great, and I wouldn't be surprised if they dominate the portal and they start to dominate NIL, because we can say what we want. There's certain teams out there that have a bunch of money, but I know one conference that has a lot of money, and that's the Southeastern Conference.
David, what do you think?
I'm not sure what delusional fairy tale land Blaine's living in. Maybe it's Rainbow Land, where you're having lunch with Marty Huggins. I'm not sure.
You can make it go if the price is right.
Look, things are just going to look different now in college football. And of course, it's for reasons that you already mentioned, Jake, talking about the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness. Yeah, guys aren't going to be the fourth-string running back at Alabama anymore when they can go start at a Big Ten school or even an ACC school. But even more than that, like Nick Saban was the greatest college football coach we've ever seen. He's retired now. That was a lot of championships that you built up in the conference. And not only that, but like just consider how hard it was to, even if all things were the same, no transfer portal, no NIL, Nick Saban still there, how hard was it already to maintain that level of dominance? Just keep in mind when I fell in love with college football, late 90s, early 2000s. I know we have some older listeners. I know we have some younger listeners. But when I fell in love with college football, Miami had a dynasty. USC had a dynasty. Florida State, Oklahoma was winning championships, not in the SEC then. Texas won a national championship in 2005. So really when Urban Meyer had that Florida dynasty and then Nick Saban joined the conference, that's when the conference really started to dominate the sport every single year. I just thought that was already unsustainable. And I think what we're seeing more and more parity with more and more schools being able to pay their players and assemble their rosters with these collectives, it's just going to turn more and more into the NFL.
Well, and again, to your point, and I'm going to get to Blaine's, and there's a few points where I disagree with Blaine, and I think the facts back me up. We're not talking about who cares the most. I still think overall, when it comes to college football, in aggregate, so together, in an amalgamation, the South and the SEC probably cares more than anyone else. Now, that doesn't mean that people care more about Vanderbilt in one instance than they do about Washington. There's examples where you can say, well, this fan base doesn't care as much as this one, and they're not in the SEC. I'm just talking about overall and why it is the most important. But caring and hope and on-field performance are two different things. I'll give you an example in the transfer portal. Duke just paid $8 million for Tulane's quarterback. Money talks. You can sit here and say all these people care and it means more in the South, but there's other schools that have money and have opportunities. David brought up the fourth-string running back at Alabama is not going to be a five-star anymore, right? Or if they do go there and they don't play, they're going to transfer somewhere else. But also look at the last two national championships. Now, Texas is still in it from the SEC. They're a brand new team in the SEC, but they're still in the SEC. But look, last year, Michigan won it, and who did they play in the national championship game? Wasn't an SEC team. Look, this year, we're 2 games away from having an all Big Ten national championship if Ohio State wins and Penn State wins. So if Texas does not win, this is going to be 2 straight years where the SEC does not play in a national championship. And I think sometimes we become victims of the era that we are in. I think there's some people that are a little bit younger than me, because I can remember this. I think you can too. Blaine, with your age, maybe you can.
How dare you?
Can remember. I know. Sorry, you're the youngest guy here. The SEC hadn't always dominated like this. This has only been something that's really come up over the last 20 years. So there's some people who have grown up that are 20 years old now that haven't ever lived in a college football realm where the SEC wasn't the most dominant. But you look before, they weren't racking up 7 in a row. Not that the SEC's been bad, but how can you look at the evidence and the evolution of the game where Nick Saban left? All these older coaches are leaving because you can't monopolize the sport anymore, because you don't have control. So therefore, I don't think you will ever see a conference dominate like that, probably ever again, or a specific team dominate like that.
I mean, let's look at evidence. How many SEC teams right now are in the top 10 recruiting?
Well, it's, again,
Seven. 7 out of the 10
How many
right
were in the
now
top 10 last
top
year?
10.
How many that were in the top 10 last year?
If you're going to look about evidence of something, one, you can't take evidence off of 1 year and say this is the way it's going to be.
2 years.
I don't think this is going to be like that at all. Right now, I look at recruiting. Who still dominates the game in recruiting? That is the SEC. 7 out of the top 10 schools right now are SEC schools. The top 3 schools are SEC schools. When you can say what you want about the transfer portal, and that's going to fix some teams. But lifeblood right now is still high school recruiting, and SEC is dominating it.
So you think the lifeblood of college football is still just high school recruiting?
For the long run, I think you can't just fix
I think it's 50-50.
I don't think you just fix a team with the transfer portal.
Cool. I think we've seen that.
That can be 1 year, 1 out.
Boy, Colorado sure fixed a lot of stuff.
Colorado's going to have 2 top 5 picks. That's not going to all the time happen. Deion Sanders' kid's not going to be playing at Colorado forever. I promise.
He's got Juju
But
Lewis
the evidence I have right now, still, you have to recruit high school kids. You have to develop high school kids. You have to build depth. That's how you build long-term dynasties. And right now, the SEC is dominating in recruiting. So as they keep doing that, I'm going to keep believing that they can put something on the field every Saturday with the depth and the talent that can give them enough to go win a national championship.
David, we got a couple minutes and we're going to wrap this up. But when you look at recruiting, the SEC, I'm not saying that high school recruiting doesn't matter. It's a nice blend. Some guys want to go 70% high school, 30% transfer portal. Some guys want to go 50-50. Hell, Mike Norvell went basically undefeated one year with the transfer portal, then won one game the next. He's gone probably 65, 70%. I just don't think it's sustainable for the SEC to dominate like they have done in the previous 20 years because the eras are different. They're non-comparable.
Maybe I'm biased because I'm from South Georgia, but the pipeline to the best football talent in the country is not going to dry up because I do believe that's where it is. Not to take anything away from the giant state of California and other places in the country. They have great football players. I agree that the pipeline is not going to dry up because that's where the best high school football players are, in my opinion. But like I said, maybe you want to stay close to home. Maybe you want to go play for Kirby Smart in Georgia, and it's all you've ever wanted to do your whole life. I'm from Statesboro. I get it. But are you really going to go there and be the third-string quarterback anymore where you can go and make money to be the starter at Wake? And there's also one other thing we're not considering here. Maybe the SEC won't be the most dominant conference in college football anymore because the SEC just doesn't exist. I mean, have we really thought about this? Look at the direction that the sport is heading with the corporatization. If we get into a situation where ESPN and Fox both come to terms on some sort of super league, like we've been talking about, and they just say, look, let's just go offer the top 35 programs, top 45, top 50 programs in the country enough money for them to compete, and all the rest of them can just be basketball schools or they can be Division II or call themselves whatever they want. We'll take 12 of the 16 from the SEC. We'll take 10 from the Big Ten and a couple of the best ones from the other conference. Maybe it's called a whole new thing. I'm not saying that's what I'm wishing for. I'm just saying we could be in an era where that super league doesn't even involve the name SEC.
Well, maybe one league could be leaders and the others could be legends.
Please don't do that.
We know how good
We've tried that.
We know how good that worked out. All right, we want to get to the poll results and our top comment questions, but first I want to tell you quickly about Lumen. Get those votes in while I'm talking here. Did you know that 80% of New Year's resolutions, well, they fail by February? Everybody gets jacked up about it early, then all of a sudden it starts to slide off. Well, this year, it can be different, and it's really, really easy because we've discovered a product, our friends over at Lumen, that can transform your approach to health. It's very simple. It's the world's first handheld metabolic coach. What does that mean? Well, it measures your metabolism through your breath, right? You just breathe into it, and it shows you whether you're burning fats or carbs. This is your scouting report. This is letting you know how your body is working, what's not. Is it helping you? Is it not? Every morning I take a quick breath into my Lumen. I'm telling you, guys, I've used this for a while. It's fantastic. It gives me personalized nutrition recommendations for the day. You can even check it before and after workouts to optimize your fitness routine. It truly is a perfect scouting report for you. So take the next step to improving your health. You go to lumen.me/booster. That's lumen.me/booster to get 20% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/booster. Get that 20% off your purchase. We appreciate Lumen for sponsoring this episode. It is a fantastic product. It's kind of a cheat code to let you know how your body is reacting. All right, let's get to the chat here.
All right, chat, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate on topic, it will get read. Let's go to Always Talking Ball. So a lot of people are turned off by Greg Byrne asking for money from fans, and the SEC may have money, but the Big Ten has more, and that will be the difference.
Well, we had Steve Dace on here, and he talked about, the 230, we're 230 billion, whatever. That's one of my biggest points is these other places have money. And money talks at the end of the day. So you can sit here and ask for donations from the baker and the plumber and the mailman and all that's great. But if you have somebody that can sit over here and fork over millions of dollars, you're going to get players. Because at the end of the day, BS walks and money talks, and there's more schools probably outside of the SEC that have more money than in the SEC, in my opinion.
All right, let's go to Joey Couch. He says, can someone tell me a team outside of Georgia/Bama and LSU in 2019 in the SEC that has been relevant since 2011?
So, I think Florida's been pretty relevant. If we're going to sit here and say since 2011, that's a different argument than when I'm going over the last 20 years. But just look at the national champions list. And again, I didn't count Texas in this thing as well in 2005 with Vince Young. So if you compare the amount of teams in the SEC that have won a national championship in the last 25, 30 years, compare it to the Big Ten, right? You sit here and say, oh, well, it's just Georgia and Alabama and LSU. Compare that to the ACC. Compare that to the Big Ten. Compare that to the Big 12. That's what's going to show you the dominance. You can't just use one thing and say, oh, well, it's only 3 or 4 teams when other conferences have had like 1 or 2 or maybe 3. I think that's a move.
And I think Tennessee is building something special, and they just made the college football playoff. They ran into a buzzsaw game 1, but I think that Josh Heupel's going to be at Tennessee for a while, and they have something pretty special built there. Again, what does the future look like for Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, for instance, right? Like, are you there to stay? What is Florida? Can Florida come back and be a dominant team again? South Carolina, again, all these programs have the capability in any year to sort of be a national championship contender, which gets to Blaine's point. What is the definition of dominance? What if we see this year, what if Texas moves on and wins the national championship? The SEC gets another one. Who's going to care that Alabama lost the ReliaQuest Bowl?
And again, I think national champion is a great way to measure. I think that's one of the pillars that you measure dominance over a span of time. National championships. I think recruiting is another. I think the NFL draft is another. It's just so hard to look at bowl games outside of the college football playoff now because of the opt-outs. And it affects everybody, right? Everybody gets affected. But all right, one more of the poll, then we got to move.
Let's go to $3 donation from Match P. Appreciate it, man. He says, guys, which is more important now, high school recruiting or the transfer portal?
Well, that's what we were talking about. I think it's a little bit of a different blend. It's like a recipe for, everybody who loves their grandmother's cooking. She may make the lasagna different than another person whose grandmother's recipe that they love her lasagna the most. I think it just depends on the coach. I think it depends on the place. And coaches are still trying to figure that out. I think every year it might change. You can have an overall philosophy of I want to be heavier on high school, then add to the transfer portal. But there may be some years when you're on the hot seat as a head coach and you got to win this next year in year 3 or year 4, where you got to go load up on the transfer portal to get proven commodities. I think over a 10-year span's the best way to use it. I always say I don't want to build the ship out of the transfer portal. I want to plug the holes in the ship with the transfer portal. That's the best way to go.
How about you focus on development no matter where the players come from? If you get them in high school or if you get them in the transfer portal, develop them. Some programs do that better than others.
All right, let's get to the poll.
All right. Has the SEC dominance in college football come to an end? Yes or no? Yes, 55%.
So it was tight.
No, 45%.
Wow. It was tight. Very interesting. I thought it'd be a little bit more on the don't believe it's over side than it was on the other. All right, Dave, let's get into punt and go here.
All right, let's get to punt or go. This is our debate segment where each of us will make a statement and the other guys have 60 seconds uninterrupted to either affirm that statement by going for it or reject that statement by punting it. Obviously, we have to start with the NFL playoffs. They are set. The Lions last night, 4 touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs. I had him on my fantasy team. Make sure you tell producer Ben Davies that I beat him in the championship every day.
Oh, I'll let him know right when we walk out.
4 touchdowns. Lions 31-9 over the Vikings. That was a historic matchup with 2 teams with more than 13 wins meeting up in the regular season like that. But the Lions now not only get that 1 seed, they get that bye, they get home field advantage throughout. So let's just list off what the NFC looks like first. Number 2 seed, the Eagles are going to host the number 7 Packers. Number 3 Bucks are going to host the number 6 Commanders. And then the number 4 seed Rams are going to host the 5 seed Vikings now after the Vikings lost last night. But that means the Lions sitting there as the number 1 seed. Like I said, they get the bye. The statement is the Lions will win the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. 60 seconds for Jake, punt or go.
Look, it's Dan Campbell and the Lions, so I'm definitely going for this one. And there's a couple differences here. I know this year was very similar to what they had last year, but when you look at the setup now, they've got a little bit of experience in the playoffs with Dan Campbell. They kind of know what to expect. You get the first round bye, and you have home field advantage all the way throughout. Where did they lose last year? Right? At the 49ers. You don't have to worry about that this season. I know people will bring up the defense, but I think, again, that's where the home field advantage will come into play. I think they're a different team defensively at home than they are on the road. Most teams are. They're 7-2 at home this year after this latest win against the Vikings. You got Anzalone back. He was a big factor in the game defensively. They've moved some guys around in that back end, moved some guys outside that they got in free agency. I think this Lions team is prepared. I think they've learned from their mistakes, and they've got the best path possible to go and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I'm going. It's Dan Campbell. I think it's the Lions year.
Blaine, the Lions will win the NFC. Punt or go?
Punt. Let's bring in the special team, something that Dan Campbell probably never does. What wins championships? Defense, right? Sooner or later, and the 3 is always not going to go in. If you're the Lions, your offense is absolutely incredible, but your defense from the injuries and not having enough stars, I think will cost you in the long run. Look at the good teams they played this year. I mean, you give up 48 against the Bills, you give up 31 against the Packers. Sooner or later, your defense is going to have to show up in a big game, and right now, with all the injuries, with everything going on, they're not good enough. We can say about the Vikings game, Sam Darnold missed 5 touchdowns, and that's on Sam. It's not like the Lions defense was playing phenomenal, because at the end of the day, we can go look at all these teams. Defense will win you championships, and the Lions' defense is not good enough to win it for them.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, if they didn't have the bye and they didn't have home field advantage, I'd agree with Blaine. Do I think this Lions team is as complete overall as they were last year? I think you can debate that either way. But again, when you look at the way this defense will play, I think Detroit is... Marshall Mathers freestyles better when he's at the shelter than when he's on the road. There is something about sleeping in your own bed. There is something about playing in front of a crowd that you still haven't shattered that glass ceiling you've been waiting on yet. You bring up the injuries, you're right. Not having Aiden Hutchinson sucks, man. It's the worst. But you do have some guys coming back. I brought up Anzalone, and I think the home field advantage with the experience from last year is the perfect mix for Goldilocks' porridge. That's why I'm riding with the
So, Blaine, one final button there. I mean, losing Aiden Hutchinson early, that was sort of the first shoe to drop, right? But the defensive players throughout the season have been going. But then I look last night at Aaron Glenn's defense against a Vikings team that's desperately trying to win that game so they can get the number 1 overall seed. They performed well. Is that sustainable with the home field advantage?
Well, I think they played okay, but if you watch that football game, Sam Darnold missed 5 touchdowns.
Well, some of it was because of pressure.
4 touchdowns, and Sam Darnold's been playing at an MVP level. Yeah. So maybe the real question is Sam Darnold ready for that moment? And the thing about being at Detroit, where did you give up 48 points? At home. Where did you give up 34 points against the Packers? At home. So road or at home, hell, the defense actually plays a little bit better.
Where would you rather play?
And I get what you're saying, but sooner or later, you're still giving up this amount of points at home. So it's not like magically, since they're at the Detroit, they're going to play better on defense because that hasn't been working throughout the season.
Well, and, again, I'm not saying they're an elite defense by any stretch of the imagination. I just think the home field advantage mixed with the experience is going to be perfect. I just hope Dan Campbell doesn't do anything crazy. I understand you have an identity, but you don't do anything crazy. All right, let's move over to the AFC. Want to run through these matchups real quick. Of course, Kansas City has the bye after another incredible season. Shocker there. You got the Broncos going to the Bills. You've got the Steelers going to the Ravens. You've got the Chargers going to the Texans. Some really, really juicy matchups there. Blaine, I'll start with you. The Chiefs will win the AFC once again.
We're going for this. Wow, I'm never punting this ball. Not only do you have to beat Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and this defense that's ferocious, you also have to beat the referees, which is a tough job to do. And in Kansas City, which is just voodoo over an Indian burial ground, I just love the way this Chiefs team is built. First of all, you have a championship coach in Andy Reid who knows how to get the job done. This team reminds me of the old Patriots team. You have an elite quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. You have your Gronkowski and Travis Kelce, who's one of the greats, and you have pieces around them that are good enough with Andy Reid does to win you a championship. And this defense is hell, guys. Look at the stats. Look at the numbers. I mean, up front, Nick Bolton, in my opinion, is probably the best linebacker in the league. Shout out Missouri and the way they played third downs. There's certain things about certain teams that built in their DNA, and Chiefs have national championship DNA, and someone's going to have to prove it to me that they can beat them.
David Cohn, the Chiefs will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl once again. Punt or go?
Punt, no way. Is Andy Reid my favorite coach in the NFL? Yes. Do they have Patrick Mahomes? Yes. Have they represented the AFC for the last 5 seasons? Yes, but at some point it's no longer sustainable. How many times have we watched the Chiefs play just this season and we looked at each other and said, how did they win that football game? You got kicks being deflected, missed field goals, like lucking their way to wins this season. I think at some point Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are coming. And whether that means they have to go to Arrowhead and they have to win these games on the road, this playoff drought for Lamar Jackson, I just don't think is going to be sustainable. Look, he invented a new category this year, throwing for 4,000 yards, rushing for 900. He won't even put on the hat and shirt for the division champs because he says, I'm focused on what's to come. And Josh Allen the same way. Like, you got Joe Brady as your offensive coordinator. At some point, those guys are going to step up and they're going to do what only Joe Burrow's been able to do the last 5 seasons, win the AFC and have some different blood in the Super Bowl rather than the Chiefs.
Blaine, I want to ask you, because you're picking the Chiefs to go through the playoffs and rep the AFC once again. Who would you rather see right now? One game, decided all to see who goes to the Super Bowl. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs, would you rather see the Ravens or would you rather see the Bills?
Well, they've played both these teams. Kansas City beat the
Ravens.
Ravens.
Right now, though.
And they lost to the Bills. I'd rather see the Ravens. And I know that's crazy to say, but I think Josh Allen is right now playing a little bit more dangerous than Lamar Jackson. I think Josh Allen's more of a pure passer than Lamar Jackson, a true dual threat. Lamar's having a hell of a year. But sooner or later, you're going to have to prove it to me in the big moment. It kind of goes back to what David said. I think the Ravens are a little bit built better as an organization. But something about Josh Allen against the Chiefs, you go back to the regular season, there's something different there. There's a little mojo there I can't put my finger on. So I think the Bills would have a better chance against them than the Ravens would.
Remember when the Chiefs beat the Ravens last year? How many times did theRavens hand off to a running back in that game? Wasn't it something like 3 or 4 times?
They didn't have Derrick Henry.
They got a guy named Derrick Henry this time, so it's not just Lamar Jackson.
Well, you brought up the numbers that Lamar's putting up, and I thought about this on the way to the studio. I want to ask you, being a former quarterback, and injuries are never a good thing. You never want to have injuries, but do you think maybe Lamar getting hurt the way he did kind of helped him transform into a better passer because he realized, hey, I just can't go out here and out-athlete anybody. I'm putting myself in harm's way a little bit more. Do you think that maybe a little bit?
You say that, but then he broke Michael Vick's record for rushing. What he's done, I can't comprehend, because 2 seasons ago when he was in the middle of the contract disputes, I thought that it'd be crazy to pay him the amount of money that he wanted when he was talking about Deshaun Watson-type numbers coming off back-to-back injuries in the season. As a quarterback who uses his legs so much, I just thought there's no way, there's no way. Chances are better that he does not return to MVP form than he does return to MVP form. Not only was I wrong because he won the MVP last year, he's probably going to win it again this year. The only question that remains for me, can he win in the playoffs, or is this just going to keep being a regular season phenomenon?
It's going to be fun to watch.
I think adding Zay Jones has obviously been huge for Lamar.
Talking about Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers, excuse me. Zay Jones is pretty good, too.
He's pretty good, too.
Yeah. All right, guys, little punt and go action here. This was a big one, and I can't wait to hear y'all's thoughts. Dave, we're going to start with you. Punt or go? Steve Sarkisian will leave Texas for the NFL.
I'm going for this. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be this week. He's obviously going to be in the college football playoff, and it may not even be this cycle, right? But this idea that Steve Sarkisian is going to turn down the NFL season after season just because he has Arch Manning waiting in the wings, like I still don't know what Arch Manning's going to be. Is he the greatest quarterback who's ever lived? Maybe. Did he get a lot of hype just because of his last name? Maybe. But in the era of the transfer portal and NIL and guys leaving, a head coach isn't going to turn down what his hopes and dreams are just because he has a player on the roster. I saw this with Jim Harbaugh, guys. I mean, Jim Harbaugh was in the NFL. He was in college. He tried out both, and he lands his dream job. Head coach at Michigan, where he played, where he was an All-American, and even he, after winning a national championship, returned to the NFL. And we've seen Sark be in the NFL. He was with the Falcons, was with the Raiders. I just think if the Patriots come calling, right? If the Patriots come calling with a young Drake May, if the Jaguars come calling with a young Trevor Lawrence, at some point Steve Sarkisian is going to listen and say, you know what? I think I could win in the NFL.
All right, Jake, punt or go? Will Steve Sarkisian leave Texas to go to the NFL?
Now, I'm going to punt. I think he'd be crazy, too. Look, I get that the NFL is the highest level of football. Nobody's going to argue that. But I still think there are NFL guys and there are college guys overall. That doesn't mean that some college guys have coached in the NFL. That doesn't mean that some NFL guys aren't coaching in college. Look at Wink Martindale at Michigan, who I think is an NFL guy. But I also think Jim Harbaugh started out as an NFL guy. If you look at Steve Sarkisian, in this NIL and transfer portal era, he has gotten the mix right at Texas. You're one play away from a national championship appearance last year. You've got a big brand behind you. You're back in the college football playoff in the semifinals again this year. You've got Arch Manning waiting on the wings, and you've built up so much equity with Texas. You have proven you can get the mix right, and you're at a monster. Why would you risk leaving a made bed where the people love you and they trust you to go to the Patriots that just fired their coach after 1 year? The risk is not worth the reward. I think Steve Sarkisian has figured out the pieces to the puzzle, and you're at a monster. I don't think he's leaving Texas anytime soon, especially not for the NFL.
All right, I love it, fellas.
All right, next one up here. It is Black Monday. We've already seen some coaches getting fired. I'm trying to check right now just to see if there are any more updates. But we do know that the Patriots, speaking about the Patriots, they have moved on from Jerod Mayo after 1 season. The Jaguars have also moved on from Doug Peterson after 3 seasons. My statement is Jerod Mayo being fired is crazier than Doug Peterson with the Jaguars. Punt or go?
Oh, I'm going because I think it's unfair unless there's off-the-field circumstances or you didn't win a game and the organization's such a disaster behind the scenes that there's no way you feel like this guy can go on. Think about it in the terms of a player. Because being a head coach for the first time, it's a totally different job than being an assistant. Whether you've even been a defensive coordinator or a linebackers coach and not a coordinator. It's in your rookie year. This is your first go at it. And it's not like he had a ton to work with a young quarterback in Drake May that's still developing. I think and it has nothing to do with color. I'm so sick of watching Stephen A. Smith and everybody get on here and talk about, oh, it's because he's a black guy is why they fired him. That has nothing to do with it. I'll give you a hint. Racists don't hire the people they're supposed to be racist against for the most important job outside of the owner for the team. I think they were impatient. That's what I think happened. Doug Peterson, you lost 18-23, and they gave you that rope because you had won a Super Bowl before as a head coach, as opposed to Jerod Mayo, who hadn't had enough time to even cement himself in there. If you fire coaches after 1 year, look at Bill Belichick. Look at Nick Saban in Alabama. This is not a good precedent to set. I think they jumped the gun.
Blaine, both coaches were 4-13 this season. Doug Peterson had back-to-back 9-8 seasons before this year.
This is a tough one, but I'm punting. I'm putting here, Coach. And a lot of it has to do with Drake May's development. I thought Drake May got worse throughout the season. If you're going to be a new coach and you're going to walk into a new job, you need certain things to go right. I thought from an organizational standpoint, it wasn't great. I didn't think the Patriots looked good when it comes to flags and just being organized in the three phases of football. And Drake May, the guy who I still think can be a good NFL talent, got progressively worse during the season. We don't know what went behind the scenes, but we do know Robert Kraft hired this guy. This was who Robert Kraft wanted to be. But I do think the regression of Drake May and Joe Milton kind of coming in a little bit and looking good for 4 quarters in a football game only hurt Jerod Mayo. So that's why I think he got fired, and that's why I'm punting.
Well, why would you not fire him before the game then? Like, you don't want him to coach to win the last game? Like, I know you went from the first pick to the 4th pick, but I feel like you should have made this move before this game then if you're going to fire the guy after winning it. I just think 1 year, Cone, it's way too much.
Yep.
But there may be another guy that may have had his last year with the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill said this in an interview after the final game of the regular season, a loss. The Dolphins are not in the playoffs, and I don't think Tyreek's going to be in Miami much longer. Let's go and play this clip.
This is my first time I haven't been in the playoffs, man. So, I mean, for me, like I said, man, I just got to do what's best for me and my family, dog. If that's here, if that's wherever the case may be, man, I'm finna open that door for myself, dog. As I'm opening the door, like I'm out, bro. You know, so it was great playing here, but.
I mean, you thinking about leaving here?
If it is, hey, yes.
Blaine, I'll start with you. Tyreek Hill is right to leave Miami.
Go.
I'm going to go.
I'm going. We're going for this. Look, to be honest with you, it feels like Mike McDaniel would rather be your friend than your coach. Tyreek Hill knows what a championship takes. He was on the Chiefs team. He's seen it from in and out, from all 3 phases, what you need to win a championship. And the fact that Tyreek Hill didn't get 1,000 receiving yards, you can say whatever you want, but his talent level hasn't gone down. And I'm sorry, there's certain things you can't trust. One, every time Tua gets hurt, he looks like Murph from the Interstellar. Right? You just can't take it serious. And when it comes to that, you don't need a backup quarterback in there when you're trying to be a championship and you can't trust the health of your starter. So if I'm Tyreek Hill, 1, I just can't trust Tua being a quarterback from a health standpoint. 2, the 15-year-old who's coaching y'all would rather be your friend than your coach. And you're not going to win championships like that. The lackadaisicalness and the unseriousness of this Miami Dolphins organization, it shows that on the field because you have too many weapons for you to be this bad. So if it's me, I am going Tyreek, get out.
David Cohn, Tyreek Hill says, I'm out, bro. Is he right? And should he leave Miami?
No, punt. I mean, you've had 2 1,700-yard receiving seasons with the Miami Dolphins. You already played for one of the greatest play callers in the NFL in Andy Reid. They traded you and somehow got better, won back-to-back Super Bowls. He also didn't have a 1,000-yard receiving season in 2019 with the Chiefs. Let's just stop running away from every single situation the moment that the going gets tough, right? 1,799 yards receiving a year ago. He was chasing down that 2,000-yard mark, almost got there. 1,710 yards receiving with this same Dolphins team, same head coach, and the same play caller in 2022. Again, maybe he just needs to focus down and say, how can I help this team better? Because when I think of the Miami Dolphins, I don't think of offense as being the problem. Are there things they need to fix? Of course, just like every team, just like every franchise. Maybe focus on how you can help the situation better instead of running and quitting every time you don't catch for 1,000 yards.
Blaine, quickly, just to follow up, Tyreek Hill got traded from the Chiefs. They almost got better. They've kept winning Super Bowls. Do you think that maybe Tyreek Hill could be part of the problem, as talented as he is?
No, I don't. What huge problem has Tyreek Hill brought onto the organization?
Well, I mean, it's more controversy. There's controversy when he left the Chiefs.
I mean, if him having a bunch of kids is a problem, then
where's he going to get? Like, where's he going to go?
I'm sure there's plenty of teams out there who want Tyreek Hill. It's not like he's gotten worse, right? Well, what's really happened? I mean, Tua can't stay healthy. He just can't. And we've talked about this all the show. You Sider said you can't trust Tua at quarterback because every time you touch him, he turns into a papier-mâché dragon and just falls apart. Sooner or later, if you're a receiver, you have to put everything in mind. And Tyreek Hill's good enough to win a championship. I just think the way the Miami organization is getting run, right, is not a serious organization when Mike McDaniel's on there. And look, he's cool. He's hip. All the kids love him, but I'd rather have an Andy Reid. I'd rather have a guy who get in my ass and let me know what the deal is, and then, hey, man, it's okay. It's okay. Let's go play Baccarat after this. We'll have a great time. You need a head coach. You don't need a buddy.
Yeah. So then why leave the Chiefs in the first place? Right? Like, clearly you left the Chiefs in the first place because you were more motivated by something that wasn't just the team winning. It was either the money that he was able to get from the Dolphins, and if that's your chief motivation, then what are you complaining about 1,000 yards for? You're getting paid, aren't you? You're getting paid a lot of money. Or is it just to go catch for the most yards as possible? Well, there's not going to be that many different, better situations than the Miami Dolphins where you have Jalen Waddle. I know the thinking might be, well, that eats into my yardage. No, that keeps you from getting doubled every single time you go out there. So, yeah, you could go do what Devontae Adams has done, where you're the best wide receiver and the best player on a team. Congrats on getting bracketed and triple teamed every play. How much are you going to get the football then? So I don't know. I just wouldn't run away every time you have a situation where you're not satisfied.
Yeah, it does seem like there's something going on behind the scenes. He talked about an issue as well in that interview. So it's going to be interesting to monitor because Tyreek can still play. I don't think anybody's going to doubt that. All right, let's get to the comments in the poll here.
All right, poll. Who won Punt or Go, fellas? David, Jake, or Blaine? A little closer than I thought here. Jake with a 26%, respectable. Blaine, 34%.
I don't trust this man doing the chat.
Coney coming in at 39%.
I paid him.
Smart man.
I paid him good.
You are a smart man. I'd love to see. All right, let's go to a couple comments there before we move on.
All right, let's go to a $3 donation from I'm Up 23. It says, Blaine, I agree with you. It's hard to take Mike McDaniel serious. I think he's the most overrated coach in the NFL.
Well, it's like with Mike McDaniel, there's kind of a quirkiness to him. I think it takes a certain individual to be able to get away with it, like Jim Harbaugh. I just don't know. Something does seem off. Maybe they are a little laissez-faire, Blaine. Maybe it's a little bit too lax, I guess, with the Dolphins when you see what's going on compared to the way Jim Harbaugh runs things or some of these other guys. It is going to be interesting to monitor.
All right, let's go to Ben7. What's up, Ben? He said, I'd be surprised if Sark left for the NFL. He already tried it, and it didn't work, and you have Arch Manning waiting in the wings. Why would you ever leave?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I agree with. All right, one more.
All right, let's go to the Beef Man 17. What's up, dude? He says, I like the Dolphins to actually bounce back. I think Tyreek says it, but ends up staying, and sooner or later, Tua has to have that years. But I want to get y'all's thoughts on how good do you think Mike McDaniel really is?
You know, I haven't made my mind up if I think Mike McDaniel is a head coach that has a chance to be really good or if he'd just be a really good coordinator. Mm-hmm. You know, some guys, it's such a different job. We brought it up earlier. You know, when you are the head coach, in the NFL, it's different than college because it's all ball. There's no class. You know, there technically is a transfer portal kind of with free agency, but it works different because you actually have to sign contracts in that league. I think the jury's still out. The question is, how much longer does he have to prove it in Miami?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's talking about Jerod Mayo and how, you know, and I agree 1 year is not enough. Ryan Grubb just got fired at the OC as the Seahawks after going 10-7 and finishing 14th in the league in total offense. So the patience with Mike McDaniel at the Dolphins, I'm wondering how much longer that leash is. It's probably going to be one more year. And if you're losing players like Tyreek Hill, I don't think that's going to help you stay in the good graces of the organization going forward when you didn't make the playoffs.
You know, we've seen it both ways. Guys like Sean McVay, offensive gurus who lose that Super Bowl to the Patriots 13-3, and it's like, well, the cat's out of the bag on him now. You know, like he's just go back to being a coordinator. He can't be a head coach. Then he gets Matt Stafford and he does win a Super Bowl. We've seen other guys who are great play callers and they just haven't been able to figure it out. So I don't know which direction it's going to head for Mike McDaniel, but you got to win at some point with the roster that they have developed, right? A season ago, it was they need to just get better on defense. Well, you got some defensive players. At some point, you need to be able to go on the road in the playoffs in the AFC and beat the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Bills.
Without a doubt. All right, very excited to debut this next segment. We are going to be giving out participation trophies through all the realm of sports. We got the docket covered. We're going to Blaine's going to throw a poll out there as well. But guys, I'm going to start out with my participation trophy of the week here. Skip Bayless and Joy Taylor controversy that is going on right now over at FS1. If you don't know, if you've had your head in the sand or maybe you just work really hard and you haven't been able to see it, there is a lawsuit from a former hairstylist, hairdresser from FS1, Fox Sports, whatever you want to call it, a Miss Faraji that claimed that she was sexually harassed, that she was groped by Skip Bayless. But it gets a little bit deeper than that, and apparently, allegedly, now this is all alleged, again, it's a lawsuit that's going on, Skip Bayless offered her $1.5 million to have sexual relations with her, which, again, alleged, that's a lot of money. We're going to get to in a second. But within that, it was also alleged that Joy Taylor was having a intimate relationship with Emmanuel Acho and Charlie Dixon, one of the head execs over at FS1, to be able to advance her career. Now, I'll once again say, to make sure I'm legally covered here, this is alleged. But if I was a betting man, I would be willing to bet on that this happened. And you know what? It's bad on its face. It's ugly on its face, even if Joy Taylor and Emmanuel Acho hadn't put out some of the videos that they have. But what makes it way worse, is when Joy Taylor, who virtue signals with the best of them, puts out these videos on how hard it is for her in this space to raise up, how hard she's worked, how much she's grinded, allegedly maybe a little bit too much, but how unfair it is to her. And Emmanuel Acho doing videos where he's, talking about how much respect he has for her. It turns out, well, apparently they got a lot of respect for each other, allegedly. Because here's where we're at. And this is all across the media spectrum. We see it in political media all the time. You have a lot of fake people out there. A lot of fake people that come out here and tell you how hard they work and how much better they are than you, how much more virtuous they are than you, how much harder it is for them to get to this ivory tower that they've gotten to than it is for you. And you know what you find out at the end of the day, most likely with this? They're worse than most people. Or at best, they're just like everybody else. So I never again, this turns out to be true, which I'm willing to bet it is. It's alleged right now. It's in a lawsuit. I never, ever want to hear Joy Taylor talk about, she set women's sports commentators back. I don't know how much with this action. Every little girl, if this turns out to be true, needs to look at her and understand you can't sit here and scream sexism and then flaunt yourself to try and advance yourself in your career. We see it in sports, just saw it in politics, and Emmanuel Acho, look, I get guys are going to, I don't think he's married, whatever. Joy Taylor, I believe, was. Now she's divorced. But he comes on there and virtue signal as much as anybody. I'm just so sick of these people acting like they're so much better than everybody else. Then we find out they're just as dirty as everybody else out there. So that's my participation trophy. Skip Bayless, I really hope you didn't offer to pay $1.5 million, dog. That's insane. I would rather take that $1.5 million and put it on the Lions to win the NFC, not for 10 minutes to hang out in the janitor's closet.
Oh, I bet none of them will get fired, though. Hey, good to see our former boss, Colin Cowherd, not mentioning any of this, though. White glove in this thing. Hey, just going about my business, doing my job. All right, I'm going to nominate for my participation trophy the Cincinnati Bengals. How do you have this team and not make the playoffs? We're not making the NFL playoffs. Congrats on ending the season 5-0, but that doesn't help when you start 1-3. Every single season they start so slow and act like the beginning of the season doesn't matter or something, like the end of the season is weighed heavier. Listen to this for the Cincinnati Bengals. You got the pass yards leader and pass TD leader in Joe Burrow. You got the receiving yards leader and receiving TD leader in Jamar Chase. And you got the sack leader in Trey Hendrickson. 44% of the league makes the playoffs. 44%. This isn't like 4 spots for 132 teams like we had for a decade in college football. 44% of the league makes the playoff. How do you have this team and you can't make the playoffs? You got to make a change, right? At somewhere.
I mean,
how long are you going to have this offensive roster together? And you know what? A lot of times with them, especially on the slow starts to begin the year, it's not even the offense is putting up a bunch of points. And it's like the Peyton Manning Colts and the defense you just don't have the defensive players. The offense starts the season slow these past couple of years.
Yeah, and a lot of it's been the offensive line too. But I mean, Joe Burrow is not getting any younger. Jamar Chase is not getting any younger. There is and not that Joe Burrow is going to retire soon or whatever, but he has been somewhat injury prone. You only have a certain window to be able to make moves like this, where you're able to pair guys up like this. And the Bengals, they just haven't been able to get it done. You brought up the amount of teams that make the playoff cone. I mean, it's sad because I want Joe Burrow in the playoffs. I want to see this matchup with them over there. It just, I don't know how this guy's still got it.
Congrats for playing, but the best you can get is a participation trophy.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring my participation trophy up, and this was going to be a little bit of a dicey one here. We got the video, Justine. Can we play it?
What are we in for on this one?
Oh, yeah. All right, tell everybody before, what is this?
All right, this is Holly Rowe and a women's football coach from the University of Oregon. Go ahead and play that vid.
Hello, I would like you to meet.
I'm Liz McKenna.
And she is an analyst for defense for the Oregon Ducks. We need more women in coaching football.
Yeah.
Tell me, what do you contribute to this team and how cool is that?
I just help out with the outside linebackers room, some of the defensive line. I help make meetings, do cut-ups, just kind of get the players, get the information they need, opponent intros, all that good stuff.
So you caught my eye because we were at Oregon's practice and you were so organized and getting guys on scout, getting their pennies, their jerseys.
Yeah.
Like you were on top of it. That's how you caught my eye. So women in football, hello, they can do it.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and then Ohio State went and dropped a 50-piece, and now it's starting to absolutely make sense. And you know, it's tough. And I think, you know, from a generality speaking, I think women, you can't understand what comes when it comes to football. All right, there's certain physical things that come with football that women just can't understand. Now, I'm not saying women aren't tough or anything like that, but there's difference between toughness and men and women. How do you walk into a recruit's house and you expect that kid, 18-year-old, full of testosterone, to really believe and trust what you say? So I just don't think women right now are a great fit for college football. I don't think it'll mesh in the locker room. I think football is too intense from a physical standpoint. Because, look, when I played, I need somebody who can physically be in my shoes to tell me what I need to do, and I just don't think we're there yet.
Okay, so I think we got to set some parameters here of exactly what's going on, because I think we throw the term coaching around too loosely.
Yeah.
I think there's a big difference between what Liz McKenna, I think her name, she says, I make the cut-ups, I send them the information they need, which is like the PowerPoints and the scouting reports. I tell the guys who are on the scout team, you're on the scout team, I give them their scout team pennies that they wear and the stuff they put on their helmet. That's a lot different than her coming up with the game plan for the outside linebackers and going out there and running drills. Okay? I think I love that women love football. My wife loves college football. She will sit there and watch it with me and ask me questions and want to learn. I'm so pumped that woman cares about college football. But I do think when we're talking about actual on-the-field coaching, actually having, position coaches that are women, there are differences between men and women. We blur that line way too much nowadays. Not that women can't be involved, but I think from an administrative standpoint, if you're doing the cut-ups and sending the cut-ups to that coach to go over in the meeting, more power to you. I'm not saying you don't know what the power is when you watch it, or the counter is, or route combinations or coverages, but as far as the on-field teaching, the hands-on, I'm a woman that is coaching the middle linebackers, I'm running drills, I'm ripping your ass. Like, at the end of the day, this is a nuanced thing. This is not teaching. This is not cooking. This is not something that really both men and women can do equally, and it has the same effect. And I put it to you like this. Sarah Fuller, when she was at Vanderbilt, the kicker, tried to give a speech to the team in the locker room. I've had multiple players from Vanderbilt tell me that was the most embarrassing thing, and nobody took it serious. Not because Sarah Fuller doesn't love football, not because they didn't respect her as a person, but there are some things that just don't penetrate through and get to other people. Coaching football is one of them from a woman's standpoint. Think about this. You're a 5-star linebacker, all right? All of a sudden, a school that's recruiting you, let's say she ends up being the outside linebackers coach at Oregon. She's the one who comes in and does your in-home visit trying to recruit some 5-star outside linebacker to go to Oregon. You mean to tell me that 18-year-old kid isn't going to sit here and think to himself, well, I just had a guy that played in the NFL for 5 years come here and try and recruit me from LSU. Do you think that guy's dad is going to say, yeah, man, we should definitely go with her? I just think there needs to be some separation there. Be interested, love it. I just think there's a difference between men and women when it comes to coaching. Not administrative things, but coaching.
My wife grew up in a football family. She loves the game and knows the game, and she puts that knowledge to work in her profession. She works in college football marketing. She's not inside the building, right? She's putting that to use elsewhere. And I have 2 daughters now. Again, like you said, I don't fault anyone who wants to go be great at something and help in some sort of way, because a football program, it's sort of like, I mean, I hate to compare it to the military, but it takes so many different hats, right? It takes so many different people for a program. You have administrative roles who have nothing to do with coaching. I agree with you that the word coaching, like, what does that mean? Are you cutting up videos? Are you on the football field? But my biggest issue is what Holly Rose said to her in the clip, which is, we need more women coaches. Why? I have 2 daughters. I don't want them to be anywhere near being football coaches. Like like men need their space too. This is a space for men. I don't understand why we just need more female coaches. If you have a skill set like my wife and like you were talking about your wife, and you can do that professionally, adjacent to the game, then that's all more power to you. But I don't need a football coach.
And this isn't a knock on women. Like, it's just a reflection of sports and culture and its demand.
Well, I think it's nuanced to football. We have women coaches. We have tons of women basketball coaches. Tons of women soccer coaches. Football is a sport. I know women have flag and they're trying to make that more popular. And I would love for women coaches to be involved coaching women's teams. That's fantastic. But football is different. Now, I do think there's one position group where maybe a woman could actually break through. I think if Mia Hamm went up and started trying to coach kickers, how to kick the ball, okay, I think we could. That's a little bit different than playing middle linebacker. It's a little bit different than playing defensive end and having to spill a pulling guard. Those are 2 totally different things. I think there's a possibility, not that it would work great, but that a woman could coach men's basketball. I think that would be probably the best bet at some point. Could Dawn Staley have success coaching men's basketball somewhere? I don't know, maybe, but I think it would break through a lot more than it would in football, and that's just the way that I see it. So, all right, let's get to the chat real quick.
Who gets the participation trophy?
Oh, you had the best participation trophy. The fans voted, and it came in. David with 13%, Blaine 41%, Jake 46%.
Yeah, that was an easy one.
Taylor, yeah.
Like, again, and it's alleged, but don't you think they're not coming out and denying it? Like, if you accuse me of that and I didn't do it, brother, I'm on top of the tallest mountain with a bullhorn and a thing of ice cream screaming that I didn't do it.
You didn't see AI skip yet?
Oh, dude, the memes were legendary off this. But Emmanuel Acho's deleting videos talking about Joy Taylor. There's an old saying, a hurt dog hollers.
We need to keep track of each person who wins the participation trophy so we can have like an end of the month, like bracket or playoff.
Well, it does feel good to be 1-0, and it feels good that the hotline just opened. So people get calls in there.
Hotline 1-855-236-3228. The Hot Take Hotline is open now.
All right, before we get there and back to the chat, we also got a new segment. We're going to give you each Monday our top plays from the week, our weekend before. Very excited to do this. I remember growing up watching SportsCenter. They'd always go through the top plays, but we got a little bit of a different gamut here, covering all different sports, kind of like they used to do over at SportsCenter. But I want to bring mine up. Mine is from the Notre Dame Georgia Sugar Bowl, the quarterfinal of the college football playoff. This is a play, if you watch the game, that I'm sure some people may have not seen before. I've seen it before. But just to set the scene, it's 23-10 with 7 minutes, 47 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. It is 4th and 1. Georgia got to stop. I think they actually reviewed the spot to make it 4th down to put him back half a yard. Notre Dame brings the punt team out. That's what you can see on your screen right now. If you're on audio, just visualize it with me. So Notre Dame brings the punt team out. Georgia leaves their defense. They go safe on punt return, which means you typically take a defensive lineman off, put a returner back there. You're protecting against the fake. But then Notre Dame quickly, all right, got the 25-second play clock here, runs the punt team off. Let's go ahead and play a little bit of this clip. Then I'm going to pause it and talk through what happened. Let's go ahead and play it, Justine. You can see here they're in punt formation. They actually hard count. Watch, I believe, 30 right there. He tries to get him a jump, doesn't work. They move, they go off. They're changing. Here comes the actual offense back on the field. Pause it right here, okay? Pause it right here. Go back a little bit. I want the sideline view so people can see the total change. Keep going. Right here. So they run the punt team off. They bring the offense on. Notre Dame is not trying to run a play here. They really want to try and get you to jump, and then they'll snap it, which is what happens. But there's a couple things. If you're Georgia, who typically is so disciplined, when you make a substitution on offense now, and it's later in the play clock, like you're seeing here, even if it's one guy, let alone a whole group, you can take almost as much time as you want defensively to run off the field. We see defensive guys lollygag off the field where the play clock runs down and the offense has to what? Either eat a 5-yard penalty or take a timeout. That's not what Georgia does. Georgia panics, which this was the plan. make Georgia panic. They run their defensive unit back on the field. They get set. Notre Dame was never intending to snap the ball. But Blaine brought this up. Watch the receiver at the bottom for Notre Dame. Georgia jumps off sides, but did Notre Dame move first? Go ahead and play the clip from here, Justine. Watch the receiver at the bottom underneath the numbers right there. Play it. You can see the flinch. Go ahead. Keep going. You'll be able to see. You'll be able to see here in a second. So again, they run the offense on. All they want to do is hard count. All they want to do is watch the receiver at the bottom here. He moves. It's almost a simultaneous movement with the interior defensive lineman. Now Georgia, that was ridiculous to jump off sides. There's no way the guy that was over the ball saw the receiver move. That's not how that worked. You panicked. You jumped off sides. Notre Dame didn't plan on snapping it unless you jumped off sides. You give them a free first down. They throw it down the field. They don't complete it. Notre Dame pretty much ices the game from there. High IQ play by Marcus Freeman, but a very shocking, lackadaisical moment of awareness and pure panic from a Kirby Smart coach Georgia team.
Normally, if you see a situation like that, Kirby Smart's on the other end of it, right? Some of the high coaching moves that we've seen, like from the Peach Bowl a couple years ago against the Buckeyes, so a little bit surprised.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you all this, though. Do you think Notre Dame would have taken a timeout there instead of taking the 5-yard delay of game penalty if Georgia didn't jump off sides? Because you are up 13 if you Notre Dame. So taking a timeout doesn't kill you. I think they probably would have.
What was y'all's thoughts on this game, Notre Dame, Georgia?
I mean, I wasn't surprised that Notre Dame won. I picked Notre Dame. I was surprised that the reason Georgia lost was not Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, exactly.
It was everything around.
I thought the kid played really well. I think he
earned the job for next year, in my opinion. Trying to go score before halftime. I get being aggressive. I get putting faith in guys. Man, it's 6-3, dog. Like, we're not even in the 6th inning yet. Like, take it to halftime. I thought Marcus Freeman, and Notre Dame bullied Georgia up front a little bit, which I never thought I'd say. I thought two shocking things. Well, 3, Gunnar Stockton wasn't the reason. Marcus Freeman outcoached Kirby Smart, and Notre Dame was more physical in the line of scrimmage.
I thought if Notre Dame was going to win football games like that against the top competition like Georgia, that Riley Leonard was going to have to be a little bit more successful through the air. He really didn't need to be. What did he throw for 99 yards?
Well, Dave, they had a strip
I thought Michigan was the only team that could throw for fewer than 100 yards and still beat.
I mean, you ran a kickoff back for a touchdown, and you had a strip sack inside the 20-yard line. It wasn't like Notre Dame was just beautifully moving the ball up and down the field the whole game. They just they made the breaks that they ended up.
All right, let's go to my top play. This is from the Peach Bowl. Texas was up 24-8 on Arizona State. Go ahead and play this double pass here from Cam Scatterbo.
This is so funny, man. Get the toss.
Look at this.
Down there somewhere.
Is it underthrown? Yes.
On
Great
purpose.
play by the wide receiver. You know, at this point in the game, Arizona State's defense had responded to those couple big plays early, and they were fighting. They had gotten the safety, right? They had fought their way back in the game. It was Arizona State on offense. They were like, hey, you're putting some yards together, but can they actually put the football in the end zone? Sam Leavitt played well enough to open up the run game for Scatterbo, but it was really this double pass that sparked everything. In the span of just a couple minutes, we go from a 3-score game or 3-possession game to Arizona State's tied up and they're forcing overtime. I do want to list Cam Scatterbo's stats from this game quickly. This was a 42-yard touchdown pass, 143 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns, and 99 yards receiving.
Can we also say if Carson Steele can play running back in the NFL, Cam Scatterbo sure as hell can play running back.
You can find somewhere for him to play.
That's exactly right. But, we always talk about a lot of times plays do not work out how they're designed, right? This was meant to be, everybody thinks it's a toss to Cam Scatterbo. Here comes the DBs, little stalk and go from the wide receiver touchdown. That Texas read that one like a book. These are the plays as a defensive coordinator that make you sick, because you read the trick play perfectly. You were in a great defensive position covering the guy you were supposed to cover. Sometimes man coverage helps that stuff out during these plays. But it was such a bad throw, it was a great throw. I almost wonder, Cone, is that how the back shoulder was invented?
Yeah.
Like, if somebody was like, wait a minute, man.
Accidentally.
Yeah, like it was an accident. If we underthrow this, like, is it not easier for them to come back or maybe get a pass interference? It
reminded me of that polecat formation trick play that Penn State ran when Tyler Warren was the center. Remember, we broke it down on Huddle Up?
Yeah.
And the safety got back. He was wide open, but the safety got back into position because the ball hung up in the air. But then he just mossed the guy and caught it.
Like, those are the things as a coordinator make you sick.
All right, I love it. Bring my top play up. God, I tell you what, this was just, this one warmed the heart. Dak Shepard at the Golden Globes. What's more important than Golden Globes, guys? Apparently to a lot of people, I could give a rat's ass about it. Let's go ahead and play this video and see what Dax was doing. Also married to Kristen Bell. I mean, big shout out. This guy's got it figured out.
Winning. God, I wonder what that party's like.
Look, doing speeches. Indiana Jones is up there. Got the guy from We Are Marshall. Who cares, guys? The Lions-Vikings game is on. See, babe?
Yeah, one of us. One of us. One of us.
You can't say anything to me. All the girlfriends out there, Dax Shepard is watching football at the Golden Globe. So that gives us permission to watch football at whatever dinner we're at, whatever movie we're at, wherever we at. We're watching football, baby, because football is more important.
It's just always fun seeing celebrities that are actually like us in a good way. Not the alleged Joy Taylor and Skip Bayless stuff. That's some good old-fashioned family fun right there from Dax Shepard. All right, Blaine.
All right, let's get to this poll. Who has the best top play? Might want to marinate a little bit.
Yeah, I feel bad because your play, you just...
No, I'm kind of getting hosed.
Yeah, we can
Are you getting hosed right now? I say call it.
Yeah.
Call it while you're getting hosed.
All right, let's go to Mike37 with the $3 donation. Appreciate it, Mike. He says, Arizona State got screwed with that targeting call. Do you think they're going to sue the NCAA?
On what grounds?
Well, like that's what I'm saying. Like, do I love the way that targeting is done? No. Now, at the time when I watched it, I thought Taft's face was up, right? It was contact to a defenseless receiver, quote unquote, to the head or neck area. So by the book, that is targeting. I think the rule of targeting is ridiculous for multiple reasons. I've laid that out. I think we should have a flagrant 1 and a flagrant 2. They never call targeting on offense. It's amazing. Apparently offenses never target. But we all know the rules are slanted to help the offense. Here's my problem with people that say, well, yeah, it was targeting, but you can't throw that there in that moment to decide the game. Then why do we have the rule? Like, that's like saying, you know what, that left tackle, he held him. He held the hell out of him. But you can't call that in that moment. What about in basketball? Some guy gets blatantly fouled, shooting a game-winning shot in a tie game. You don't call it because, that's too big of a moment. Let the players decide the game. They did decide the game. You fouled him by the letter of the law, and I can't believe I'm defending a targeting call at the end of the game or saying that it should have been called. But I do think they got screwed over. I just wonder if the shoe was on the other foot. I think the biggest argument is I'd be willing to bet you my bottom dollar. If the roles were reversed and that happened to Texas, they'd have thrown the flag.
Oh, I hope
that's the problem that I think I have with it.
I hope not.
That's what I think.
Just get rid of the rule. We won't have this problem anymore.
Well, we can both agree on that one, buddy.
Let's go to DJ. What's up, man? He says, when's the last time we looked at a Georgia team and seen this lack of skill at the skill positions? Do you think this will be something that's reoccurring at Georgia, or do you think it's a one-time thing?
Well, I get the people that are worried about the development of some of these transfer wide receivers. Now, some of it is off the field stuff. Like, you look at Tommy, you can't keep having guys getting kicked off the team, man. And it seems like they're mainly from one position group when it comes down to Georgia. So, obviously, you're not evaluating the mental side of it. And, I know they got the Branch brothers coming in from USC together. I know one of them is kind of better than the other. But, as far as overall, I know Brock Bowers is a tight end, but he got developed. But they recruited him out of high school. Lad McConkey, they recruited him out of high school. He got developed. It seems like they're better at targeting high school players and developing them than going out in the transfer portal and getting some of these other guys. Now I'm hearing Noah Thomas from A&M may end up at Georgia, which would be a good fit. To me, I don't think it's as crazy with the wide receivers. And again, Dominic Lovett, we can go down the list. I mean, Arian Smith caught a deep ball in that game. He actually caught the ball when it was thrown to him, even though he still mini jumps when he catches it. But you're just looking at Georgia. I'd be more worried if I'm a Georgia fan about what happened at the line of scrimmage. Because that's y'all's bag, baby. Yeah. It's not really the wide receivers. It's the line of scrimmage. That's where Georgia's done their most damage.
All right, boys, let's get to the hot take hotline. If you're listening live right now, go ahead and call in 1-855-236-3228. Each caller is going to get a 60-second shot clock. Give us your hottest take. We're going to start with Joshua in Knoxville, Tennessee. Joshua, what's your hot take?
Hey, guys, and this kind of goes with whether or not the SEC dominance is over, but I think the SEC is objectively better than the Big Ten. In recruiting, the SEC has 7 of the top 10, whereas the Big Ten only has 3. In transfer portal, we have 6 of the top 10. Big Ten only has 2. In NIL collectives, we have 7 of the top 15. Big Ten only has 4. And then in the current power rankings on ESPN, we have 10 of the top 25, whereas they only have 6. And then looking at strength of schedule, we have 6 of the top 10, and we have 13 of the top 25. The Big Ten only has 8 of the top 25. And so I think the only reason why the Big Ten competes pretty well, especially postseason, is a lot of their scheduled games, they get to rest a lot of their players, because like Ohio State had about like 6 or 7 games this year where they could rest their players, whereas like Georgia only had like 3.
Mm-hmm. Well, Josh,
Thanks, Josh.
and look, I think, again, in this argument, I think we have to make sure that we understand we're not saying that the SEC may not be the better conference more years than not. It's the level of domination from a national championship standpoint, and then from a postseason standpoint in the playoff. Like, you could have a situation where the SEC with 16 teams has more of the better teams, but when you get into the playoff where there's only 12 in, I don't think we're going to see the SEC dominate from a line of scrimmage perspective, like we were just talking about with Georgia and Notre Dame, like they used to be, because that's what separated the SEC. It wasn't the wide receivers. It wasn't the DBs. It was the monopoly on offensive and defensive linemen. You bring up that the Big Ten only has 4. Well, I'm looking at the Big Ten right now. There's more Big Ten teams left than there are SEC teams. You look last year, Washington, who's now in the Big Ten, played in the national championship against Michigan, who is also in the Big Ten. The SEC has always dominated recruiting because more of the players are in the South. Closer to home you are, you're going to keep those guys home more than not. David brought that point up. But from a winning 7 titles in a row, from a turning on the TV and being like, good God almighty, Alabama's defensive line is absolutely pulverizing the second best team the best team from another conference in the country. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. That's just my opinion.
That line is now open. Let's get a new caller on there. We're going to go to Preston in Orlando. Preston, what's your hot take?
Boys, my hot take is that I was right and I was wrong. Before the season started, I called y'all. We talked about ASU and how I thought Dillingham would exceed expectations. I was right. I was wrong where I thought they would lose more than they did. I appreciate you guys talking about them. It's been a huge, huge part of, I think, their success is getting some national media attention. Your show is now national media. Congratulations. Congratulations to ASU. I took my 13-year-old twins to that Peach Bowl game, made the 7-hour drive, and it was electric. Man. A loss is a loss. I could not be happier with that loss. But I appreciate all you guys do. Even the minutes you talked about them before, during, and after the season, it's huge. And I appreciate that, and go Devils.
Hey, Preston, really appreciate it. Great call.
How replicatable is this for Kenny Dillingham with Sam Levitt coming back? Obviously, Scadabo's a senior.
I think that's the last question that Arizona State fans are probably asking about Kenny Dillingham. Because what he did this year was nothing short of incredible.
It'll be talked about for years.
It's one of the best coaching jobs that I have ever seen from a young guy. This wasn't Bill Belichick coming into North Carolina in year 1 and going on this run. This was a guy that's still learning how to become a head coach, who is obviously, from a overall perspective, structurally, schematically, and personally, and mental connection with the players, has figured something out. Can he replicate it now when you are the hunted? Because Arizona State he's going to try and keep them the hunter, right? And if he does that to the players, that's all that matters, right? But just like Colorado, isn't going to sneak up really on anybody anymore. I don't think Arizona State's going to sneak up on anybody anymore. And I wonder, we talk about the transfer portal having an effect on teams. Remember, Sam Levitt came from the transfer portal. Scadabo came from the transfer portal. So how's Kenny Dillingham going forward going to lean on the transfer portal as opposed to developing high school players? But I tell you what, man, there is very few guys. I think that Kenny Dillingham should probably win every head coaching award out there for what he did this year. Because it wasn't just we were 6-6 last year and we turned the corner. Arizona State was an absolutely flaming disaster when he showed up. And he turned a dumpster fire into $1 million garbage business. And that's incredible.
Is this a flash in the pan year, or can Arizona State be a problem with Kenny?
No, I think they could be a problem, especially when your quarterback's a freshman. And I think Sam Levitt's going.
Oh, he's nice.
An absolute problem. But, does Kirk Cignetti win any awards this year?
Got to.
I think if Arizona State would have gotten blown out in this game, I think you could make somewhat of a case for Cignetti being over Dillingham. But look at the games that Dillingham won compared to Indiana. Who really did Indiana beat that you said, man, Like, God, I can't believe they won that game. Now, I know people say Indiana won the game, so that's shocking in itself. And Cignetti did a hell of a job. We've done nothing but praise him. But I think what Dillingham did was so much more impressive because Tom Allen didn't leave Indiana in the same situation that Herm Edwards and Antonio Pearson, some of these guys left Arizona State for Kenny Dillingham. I mean, they were like going against the law.
And I'll tell you what's more impressive than even the wins and losses and making the college football playoff, the way this guy handles his business off the field. Just for example, after that bowl game, some of his players, going up into the tunnel, tough loss, he calls them back and says, no, we shake hands. You would have shaken their hand if you won, didn't you? Yeah. We shake hands when we lose. This is the way we do things. That's just one example. He's been doing that all season. And that's from a young guy. That's not some 70-year-old get off my lawn type coach. That's a young generation leading by example.
And I want to say this real quick. I'm not going to say which quarterback, but when I was at SEC Media Days, there was a certain quarterback that said he talked to a couple coaches about going there through the transfer portal, and the coach he disliked the most, Kenny Dillingham, said he was too cocky. Well, it turns out, oh boy, backs it up.
All right, that line's open. Let's get a caller on there. We're going to go to Brett in Bakersfield, California. Brett, what's your hot take?
So my hot take is this: with two California schools being in the Big Ten, and if you look at the recruiting numbers, like California usually had the best recruits every year. And I think that can put the Big Ten over the top of the SEC for years to come because they have more access to the California recruits now that they're in that conference.
Well, Brett, look, when you have and again, it's funny, Bakersfield, I recruited Bakersfield. Don't think about that like that ain't San Francisco, buddy. Some of the toughest guys I've ever recruited. I had one safety that came out of there who played for me. It's one of the toughest dudes I've ever seen in my life when it comes down to physicality. So I think some people think of California as like, oh, it's like San Francisco, like, hey, man, like, sunshine. I don't want to hit. That ain't Bakersfield, buddy. I can promise you that. Here's what I'll say about USC and UCLA, which is what you're referencing, going to the Big Ten. I actually think, and we have to see what Lincoln Riley does. Obviously, Deshaun Foster at UCLA. We'll see how that goes. End of the year on a pretty good note. You look at USC and Lincoln Riley beating A&M, even though I know that's not. USC fans don't want a year like the year they had this year. I think it does add more cachet. I think it gives the Big Ten more versatility. Because what do we always view the Big Ten as? Just big, heavy guys, physical run game, not a lot of flash and sizzle. Kind of like Michigan.
13-7 scores.
That's exactly right. Iowa, Minnesota. I think it's a nice, nice blend. If you got some West Coast now, guys that like to sling it around. I think it makes the Big Ten more attractive overall to recruits because you got a versality of games that you're playing.
Let's don't forget all that
freeze
great.
Your ass off. Have a great time.
Yeah. Don't forget all that great country music to come out of Bakersfield, California. While we're talking about it. All right, let's go to Zach in Louisiana. 60 seconds starts now. Zach, what's your hot take?
What's going on, fellas? Hope y'all have a happy new year. My hot take is, everybody talks about how, the big thing is the transfer portal is ruining football, college football, this and that. But my take is, I think this junior college rule, the new rule about, having 2 years, no eligibility laws, I feel like that's going to ruin JUCO football. Now you got guys coming in who maybe didn't, have a shot here and there, and they can come in. And how do these junior colleges support these guys financially? And I just feel like that's more of a topic that not many people talk about because, it's centered mainly around the transfer portal in college football. But what do y'all think about the JUCO? Like, how does this affect JUCO?
Man, Zach, it's a great point. I don't think, as somebody that coached in junior college as well, I don't think enough people are talking about this. It's shocking to me because we all know prep schools, right? Growing up, some guys would go to a prep school for a year, then they would go to college, they would use it as the redshirt year, or sometimes it wouldn't count this, that, or the other. But a 2-year college, it's in the name, junior college. It should count against your eligibility, whether you're there for 1 year or whether you're there for 2 years. And what Zach is bringing up is that how are these junior college guys they're going to be inundated because it doesn't count against you. So why not go do that? I agree with them. I don't think there's the space, there's the money, and there's the ability to fund this outside of some sort of supplemental money that's put in there. I've been at poor JUCOs. I've been at rich JUCOs. I don't know how some of these rich JUCOs are going to handle it. But the bigger problem overall for me is how are we going to let guys, that means you can play, 7 years of college football now, and you don't even blink by it. They're talking about having 5 years of eligibility now when you go to an actual college. At some point, you've got to move on. We can't have, it's different with the guys at BYU who are going on these religious missions. They're not going to play football in Guatemala. They're like building houses and helping kids with cleft lip. Like these kids are going and playing JUCO football and honing their craft, and it doesn't count against them. So, it's not like baseball either, where some guys, I've known them, went to junior college to play baseball that had big offers because you could do steroids in junior college and they didn't test for it. They never tested any of our players in junior college for steroids. So now what you're going to see is a bunch of dinosaurs coming out of JUCO that look like absolute muscle men. Then they're going to deflate when they got to get off the sauce and they go to college. I think it's the dumbest thing ever, man.
I think
Thanks,
too many
Diego
people
Pavia.
watched Tommy Boy and Van Wilder and just thought, I'll stay in college for 7 years as well.
Bro, get your CDL. Get a job.
There'll be no Diego Pavia hate on this show.
I'm not hating Diego Pavia. I don't blame. Do you see Lane Kiffin?
What did he say? What did Lane say?
He said that Jackson Dart may try to get a waiver to play for another year.
Why not?
That's the least surprising thing I've heard today is that Lane wants Jackson Dart back. Y'all call into the Hot Take Hotline, 1-855-236-3228. Let's go to Kirk in Canada. Your 60 seconds starts now. Kirk, what's your hot take?
Oh, I got a couple of them. Number one, Justin Trudeau's finally stepped down.
Congrats, dog.
I think January 6th should be a national holiday in Canada from now on.
Don't replace him with someone worse.
Number two, the Leafs beat the Flyers last night. I didn't know if you caught that or not, Blaine.
No, definitely didn't. But congrats.
Hey, sorry about y'all losing in overtime to Team USA. By the way,
You were supposed to notice that.
That was Kirk. Hey, look,
Don't piss us off.
Again, just be the 51st state. Just come on. That way, hey, you really win. Either way, whoever wins. We'll take y'all's hockey play. You want to piss Canadians off? Merge them with the United States and give us those players on Team USA. If I'm the Team USA hockey coach, I'm the first one in line trying to get that
Take over the world. 10 more seconds, Kirk. What's your hot take?
Ovechkin's 22 goals away from Gretzky's record, which makes me sad, but kudos to him.
Is he going to break it, yes or no?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right.
There it is.
All right, when that happens, Kirk, we need to hear from you first thing, man. You're our resident hockey fan. Let's go to 702 Gambler in Las Vegas. 60 seconds. What's your hot take, brother?
Hey, what's up, fellas? Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year.
Wanted to give you guys my take on a 48-team Super League and how to fix college football. I would do 12 divisions. I would do 4 teams in each division. I would have a home and away scheduling with 8 division games. I would do 4 games outside of the division against other divisions. I would also move bowl week to week 1 so that we can kind of prevent all these opt-outs at the end of the year. I would expand the playoff to 20 teams and give all the division winners an automatic playoff berth, 8 wild card slots, and I would do the top 4 highest rated division winners getting first round buys. In terms of a commissioner, I do like Nick Saban, but I actually enjoy him on TV more. I would probably vote for Chris Peterson.
Fine, I'll do it. Chris Peterson.
Boise State coach as the commissioner. And then last but not least, I would replace ESPN altogether.
Yes. Boy, that's a great place to end it, 702. That's a great place to end it. That's why 2025, it's the year of the Crain and Company takeover. Everybody's tired of that ESPN BS. I mean, I was watching today. It's just basically CNN with a couple people who played sports on it.
I want to see that written out. Send us something like a graphic.
Well, you know what's funny? Like, I always think of this, I hear that and I'm like, God, that's way too much change. Like, you're just blowing the whole thing up. Then I think about college football the past 2 years. We're like, you can pay the players now. You can transfer whenever now. Junior college doesn't count. We got 12 teams in the playoff. It's already changed so much. Like, obviously, people are still going to watch.
Meanwhile, I'm just sitting here like, can we finish the first 12-team playoff?
Yeah.
Like, we can't even finish that.
You're too rational.
All right, 2 more callers on the Hot Take Hotline. Let's go to Jordan in the Cumberland Gap here in Tennessee. Jordan, 60 seconds. What's your hot take, brother?
So my first hot take would be, coming from me, is that I have to give my flowers to Blaine because I think he is 100% right about this SEC conversation. I don't think you can just take the last 2 years and say, all right, I think the dominant run's over. But really what I want to get at is this: what's with the fear of people being so afraid of being called SEC bias? Of course I'm SEC biased. I'm from the South. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're from Ohio or Michigan or wherever, listen, support your conference. I think everybody's biased. You can't deny the human element, but you can also recognize real. I watched Ohio State beat my Vols like when I play my 7-year-old in NFL Blitz. All right. Things happen. All right. But that's my hot take. Appreciate you guys.
I love it. You should call in more often.
Yeah, great call. Here's what I'll say to that. I again, and this is what I tried the point I tried to make at the beginning. I'm not saying I don't think the SEC is still going to be the best conference for most years. I just don't think any conference is winning 7 titles in a row again. I don't think you're going to be able to monopolize the sport when it comes to the NFL draft and when it comes to on-field results, meaning championships, right? Teams in the playoff that win the most. Not that the SEC can't, but I just don't think it'll be at that level. It's a level of dominance. I'm not saying the SEC won't be the best most of the time, but they were so far head and shoulders above. Think about those Alabama teams with Nick Saban. It literally made Brian Kelly leave Notre Dame to go to LSU. That's how bad it was. You look at Georgia and those Kirby Smart teams, right, before this stuff really started getting kicked off. They were rolling people on the line of scrimmage. I just think it's not been totally diversified to where everybody's even. I'm not saying that. I just think it's been diversified more than what it used to be. But to the point of bias, everybody has innate bias in some ways. My innate bias is I think football is the best sport that there is. And I love baseball and I love basketball, but I think football is the best sport. Now, a lot of it is what your job is. My job, when I tell you what I think, is not to be biased. My job is to tell you what I'm seeing and what I think about it. I don't want people to tune into this and say, oh, well, they're just going to gas up the SEC the whole time, or they're just going to hate the SEC the whole time. That fringe thinking, I think, is nuts. What I'm going to tell you is I think the SEC has run college football for the last 20 years pretty much. I don't think they're going to run it as heavy as they have. I love SEC football. I'm from Auburn, Alabama, but I'm not going to just make something up, right, because I'm from a place.
Again, I don't understand conference bias or conference affiliation in the first place. Like, Illinois is playing South Carolina. I played in the Big Ten. I'm not just like pulling for Illinois to be. Shane Beamer recruited
me. But that person's out there.
Shane Beamer in South Carolina.
Look at our buddy Danny
Like,
Cannell.
if he's a Tennessee fan, well, I know. Talking about that, Chipper Jones responded again on social media. Like, Chipper Jones, what's your favorite SEC team? It's just so weird for me to see someone who's like, I just love the SEC as a conference. Who's your team?
Well,
if you're a Tennessee fan, why are you rooting for LSU?
Well, what's funny is you have so many different segments of type people. You have some people that say, you know what? Yeah, I think the SEC is the best. They have one team, let's say they're a Florida fan, they'll root for every other team in the SEC to lose because it'll make Florida look better if Florida's the only team to win. You have some people that are from where I'm from, Auburn, that are like, yeah, the SEC is the best. They hope Alabama loses every game that they play.
Well, I get it if you played a team and you lost to them or you beat them and you want to make, again, you want to make your team look better. I mean, I can understand it from that standpoint in a particular situation, or in a situation where them winning helps you get into the postseason.
Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly.
That's a little different.
Yeah.
One more caller, Nick in Toledo, Ohio. You got 60 seconds, Nick. What's your hot take?
Hey, guys, how's it going? As
What
far
up?
as SEC bias, I just think it's Ohio State against the world. But my actual hot take in this one is I've been listening to all these SEC talk shows talk about stats and going through the games, Texas versus Arizona State and all that, and they've been comparing them. And the only thing I want them to hear, none of them are listening, Ohio State hasn't played more than one half of football in the playoffs. They need to take that into account.
Yeah. I mean, I think anybody that sits here and says that Ohio State isn't playing the best right now, I don't care what bias you have, I almost want to check you into a mental facility.
You're a Michigan fan.
Ohio State is absolutely murdering people. And those hands are ready to eat for everyone. They did it against an SEC team. They did it against a Big Ten team. If I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm almost worried we're playing too good. Like, I don't know how you can do this 3 times in a row. Will Howard is playing better than I've ever seen him. Now, I know some plays Jeremiah Smith is wide ass open. I get that. But the throw he made to Igbuka, some of these other throws that he's making, if Will Howard plays like that with the weapons around him and the defense they have, I mean, Ohio State is the best team in the country playing right now. We'll see if they can keep that up. It's going to be interesting. But I think you'd be crazy. I don't care where you're from, what conference you root for. Ohio State is absolutely right.
Great job on the hot take hotline today. Let's get those feet chopping again tomorrow.
All right, let's get to bets. Then we're going to get back to the chat. Then we're going to get to donations. Then we'll try and drive home on the snowy, icy road in Nashville where everybody freaks out. We're also going to start bringing back Who Wins the Month. All right? Excuse me, got the hiccups. We've been tracking them
All right, but now we're going to see who wins the month. There's going to be a winner and loser every day. Typically, they say don't bet with your heart. All right, one of the groomsmen of my wedding, one of my best friends in this world is a guy named Sam Mix. He's the wide receiver coach for Montana State.
Yeah.
They play North Dakota State tonight in the FCS National Championship. And I'm riding with the Bobcats. It's a ride or die situation. -2.5 at -150. They've been so close. North Dakota State has run roughshod over the FCS for so long, but it's time for a new face. And that face is Sam Mix, and I hope a wide receiver catches a touchdown pass to win it. So give me Montana State -2.5 tonight at -150. Then college hoops, baby, had a delicious slate, an absolutely scrumptious slate this past weekend as conference play gets started. Give me Houston tonight playing TCU -18.5. That's at -112. I almost took the under at 128 because Houston's defense, they'll light you up, but give me them on the spread, 18.
Man, did you see the way Kansas beat Central Florida?
Well,
Is that who it was?
Yeah, they needed to play that way after what happened to them against West Virginia, first time ever winning in Fog Allen.
That is true.
Game one of the conference.
All right, I'm going to go with the under in that Montana State, North Dakota State game, under 58.5, -115. And then for college basketball, I'll go Wisconsin money line, -130, taking on Rutgers.
All right, put my bets up. We're starting to keep track, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's the track's being kept.
Let the bearing begin. All right, give me Montana State money line. I really don't like the spread in this game, -160. I know it's a little heavier on the odds, but come with me, take my hand, and you'll be safe. And I'm going to the over, Dave. Give me the over 58.5, -110. Points. It's the new year. What do you want to see? Want to see points. Somebody like Scrooge over here and bet the under.
Yeah, I don't know what scares me more, Blaine taking the over in that game or saying take my hand and come with me. All right, let's bring up Ace's
one way to
bets.
find out.
Yeah, okay, Skip. All right, he's going to take North Dakota State +3.5. That's going off at -115. And then Nichols, -5.5 tonight. That's going off at -110. I believe Nichols is the Colonels, right? I believe that's correct. My buddy Mitch Rodriguez, former coach who played at Nichols with Ed Orgeron, would probably be pissed at me if I got that one wrong.
All right, we're about to get to these donations, but quickly, guys, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we have a live stream.
Yes, we have a live stream Thursday and Friday for the semifinal games. We're unbelievably excited about that. Probably going to be back at Mission Cigar. Good to go there. The last one we did, Notre Dame and Indiana, got 300,000 views. It was an awesome time. Make sure you guys join us Thursday and Friday. Now, I may be there, I may be not, because my wife is due with her first child on January 9th.
You got bigger.
She picked a heck of a time. She's already grounded before she's been born because she decided that January 9th would be that due date. But, Coney, we got some headlines we want to read too.
Well, do we have more donations that we didn't get to first?
Yes, we do.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's go to a $5 donation from Rodney Smith. Appreciate it, Rodney. Thoughts on ESPN not showing the national anthem, Notre Dame running out with the American flag, or the moment of silence before CFP in New Orleans?
Look, and here's the sad part. There's some people that work for ESPN that we know that are great guys and great gals, and they love the United States. But obviously, the people that are running that, I'm not going to blame it on incompetence anymore. I'll just be honest with you, and I know we do a sports show here. We want as many viewers as possible. I don't know how y'all watch that stuff anymore. Outside of the games, right? Like when we live stream the games, we have to watch it on there. But as far as that, and you see the stuff with Acho and Joy Taylor, just come on home to Crain and Company, man. Again, we want to be the biggest sports show that there is, and ESPN has, been the worldwide leader, quote unquote, for some time. But I think they've buried themselves in the ground, man. I refuse to watch it.
Let's go to $10 donation from BCC. Happy New Year, fellas. What do you think of my idea for the NOLA victim relief? Auction the Crain and Company action figures. Should I put the figures on order?
Ooh, I don't think that's a bad idea. Let us put our heads together and see if we can figure something
out.
Good
idea.
$5 donation from D says, Punter go, Tampa Bay Buccaneers OC and Liam Cohen will be the next head coach of the team.
Well, I think Todd Bowles isn't close to done. Don't forget, Liam Cohen was the OC at Kentucky.
That's right.
With Will Levinson. I am wondering, and look, a lot of guys, when they start having success in the NFL, they don't want to go back. I'm interested to see if Liam Cohen stays in the NFL or maybe gets a head coaching job at a bigger college spot because of what he's doing in the NFL. But really happy for him. And the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, that Mike Evans thing was awesome too, man, to get him that extra $3 million or whatever it was. I just like the Buccaneers.
$5 donation from Humping Badgers. Those scoundrels from FS1 are too perverted, even for me, and that says
too much.
A lot. Let's go to a $5 donation from Erickson. What's up, man? It's official. Red Zone is over. They changed their phrase. You guys were talking grading Alabama. We are a B. We beat our rivals, Georgia and Auburn, but Red Zone is forever over.
It's sad, man.
It's just, if there's one thing I could trust, from not being commercials in red zone.
Yeah.
So is it officially done? Like, they're going to be commercials in red zone now? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Well, then I'm officially not watching it.
Yeah.
Yep, can't pay anymore.
I'm officially pissed.
$10 donation from Cofield says, how many of Auburn's first 6 of 8 games need to be won for Freeze not to be fired midseason in 2025? And how many need to be won for him to keep his job for 2026?
Well, it starts off, you're going to Baylor, I believe. I think that's at Baylor's campus in Waco. I don't think that's a neutral site game. Don't quote me on that. Look, I got to go back and look at what the first 6 games are, but just from an overall viewpoint, if it's going to be 7-5, it better be the right 7-5. I think if he gets to 8, that's fantastic. Whatever. I'm worried about the Jackson Arnold thing. Maybe wrong. We'll see if he can fix them, but I just didn't think they were going to take hand-me-downs. I thought they were going to go out and get a car they know could win a race.
$2 donation from WC says, just checking in on Brett Bielema's son, Shane Beamer.
We got something coming for that, too, down the pipe. That whole situation, I know we talked about it a little bit on the recap that we did. You just don't go to another man's sideline mocking him, even if you think you're right. You did that to me, I'd have had the same reaction. It was literally the cat meme with the woman yelling at her. They actually recreated that.
$5 donation from RG. West Virginia is back, baby. Hoops is balling out and winning in Allen Fieldhouse. Rich Rod doing a great job in the portal and putting a good staff together. We'll see.
Zach Alley got the DC job. Called that one.
What an alternate universe. Rich Rod back at West Virginia.
I know, but as far as the basketball team, they went and beat Kansas without 2 of their best players. I think it's Javon Smalls, his name, he's absolutely incredible. They beat Oklahoma State like a fat kid at a skinny party.
$2 donation from the King. He says, FCS Natty today, boys. Go Bobcats, MSU by
Let's go. $1 million. Let's go Bobcats. Let's go Mixie.
$5 donation from CC. I think Marcus Freeman said it best. Major in recruiting and minor in the transfer portal. Go Irish. Happy New Year. And Jake still owes me merch. You're never getting
That's
it, buddy.
a great way to... No, you're going to get it. It's actually on the way right now. Surprise. Merry Christmas for 2025.
$10 donation from the Sir. Appreciate it. My sophomore year starts in an hour. I got U.S. Gov and U.S. History, World History, English 2, and the intro to film. Jake, can you send me off for the motivational speech? Also, I got kidnapped by John Dillinger. Well, good luck, buddy. I hope that works. One more donation. $5 donation from Raymond Harton. Says, how about them Irish fellas?
Dude.
Look good.
Man, this feels like new waters for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It's like you finally get to go into the deep end as a kid in the pool, and you're like, oh, I can swim. There's hotter girls over here. It's amazing. It's a great situation.
All right, let's get to the poll quickly. Yep. Who had the best top play? Jake, Blaine, or David? Jake with 27%, Blaine 34%, Coney coming in at 37%.
Wow, I think we all went even there on who won today. I may be wrong, though. I think it was 1-1-1. All right, man. Well, great stuff. We appreciate you. Some great calls today, too, as well. Got a great show for you tomorrow. Really enjoying this.
You got to do Fit It in a Minute.
Yep. Let's go ahead and Fit It in a Minute, David. You got,
Put that 60-second shot
Put that
clock.
60 seconds up there, David. Good luck.
This is the rest of the sports news you need to know. All right, first up, Georgia quarterback Jaden Rashada has once again entered the transfer portal. Here's what his careers look like from 2022. Commits to Miami, commits to Florida, signs with Florida, receives release from Florida, signs with ASU, leaves ASU, transfers to Georgia, sues Billy Napier and a Florida booster that we talked about, and now has left Georgia without playing. The Branch brothers, talking about Georgia, are going to be Bulldogs. Wide receivers Zachariah and Zion have committed to UG after leaving USC. Both were top 100 recruits, and Zachariah is a top 10 player in the portal. He accounted for 1,800 all-purpose yards in 2 seasons with the Trojans. On to golf, Hideki Matsuyama kicked off the new PGA Tour season by posting a 35 under at the Century in Hawaii. I don't think I've even made 35 birdies in my life. This win is his 3rd in the past 10 months. And finally, on to the NBA. The Heat suspend star Jimmy Butler for 7 games for conduct detrimental to the team. Miami continues to listen to trade offers for the 6-time All-Star, but expect him to return to the team if the trade doesn't materialize.
Perfect. Golly, you nailed that one. Coney, good job. 1 for 1 on the Fit It in a Minute. All right. We appreciate you guys. Shout out to the chat. Again, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Got a great show for you tomorrow as well. Make sure you're locked in. 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. And like the chances of 2025 not being a great year and a great live stream on Thursday and Friday, we're going. Gone.
Nice catch.
Needed to do it.
Love it.
You got Fit It in a Minute and I caught it.